Well, good afternoon, Rotarians, and welcome to yet another segment of Rotarian Spotlight. And obviously, we're not able to meet in the Hall of Mirrors, and I hope you're enjoying the virtual meetings that we're posting on Facebook and YouTube. But hopefully, we'll be back very soon in the Hall of Mirrors and get to talk one-on-one with each other. But today is your lucky day because I have the luxury of having Dan Long be in front of us today and allow the club to get to know Dan a little bit better. Although, Dan, you've been around for a number of years, so I think a lot of folks already know you as well. But welcome, Dan.
Thank you, David. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and my fellow Rotarians.
Absolutely. Well, I've known you for, I don't know, 7, 8 years probably now, I would say, maybe a little bit longer. And we've worked together on the Membership Development Committee and years back. And we've actually seen each other at some UC sporting events, which is kind of nice when you see a familiar Rotarian face
we have
at a basketball game or whatnot. So it's been fun. So tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe a little bit about your family, your career, some of the things you like to do, hobbies, interests, etc.
Sure. Well, I've been married to my wife, Lisa, for going on 41 years.
Wow.
Lisa is the one of 7, and she's the proud daughter of Roger Anderson, who was a longtime Rotarian, and probably a lot of our members remember Roger. He was actually president of the club back in 1964, and was just a super great father-in-law, and Rotarian. I've got 4 children. All 4 of them are married. 2 live in Cincinnati. The third one is soon to move to Cincinnati. He and his wife are doctors and have accepted jobs at Christ Hospital and will be starting September 1 at Christ Hospital. So we're on cloud 9. That's probably the only good thing that's come out of this pandemic, is the fact that they are moving home.
Good.
And I have a son, Roger, that lives in Seattle. All told, we have 8 grandchildren. 6 out of the 8 are here in Cincinnati, and 6 out of the 8 live fairly close to us. So we have a pretty good close proximity to our grandkids. I'm not a big hobby guy. I'm pretty simple. I'm a sports fan. I've had UC basketball and football tickets ever since I graduated from UC. I have a very good, close-knit group of fraternity brothers and their wives that we've been going to these games with through all the years. So I'm a huge sports fan, Reds fan, Bengals fan. I can't say I really have any hobbies. I mean, I love my crossword puzzles and my Sudokus, cryptoquips in the Enquirer every morning. I love 60s and 70s music, so my kids would tell you I love to sing along in the 60s and 70s. But other than that, play a little bit of golf, but I'm not a big hobby guy.
And from a career perspective, tell us a little bit about that.
I'm sorry, the what?
From a career perspective, tell us a little bit about that.
Correct. Yeah, I was getting into that. Maybe the one fun fact that you asked me about that probably not a lot of Rotarians know is I've actually had 3 different classifications within the Rotary Club since I've joined in 1981. In 1980, or actually back in 1977, my brother, myself, we owned 3 AMCO transmission centers. So we were AMCO transmission franchise back in the day. So my first classification was automatic transmissions, which was not a very competitive classification back in the time. And that goes back to my Rotary days when we had 600 members, we had no women, and we had a very strict classification committee, of which I was the chair of for several years. And we literally, when someone brought a potential member to us, we literally had to call members up that touched upon that particular classification to find out whether they would allow that person to enter the club. And suffice to say, at that point in time, we lost what could have been quite a few very good members just because some of our members jealously guarded their classification. The one member that comes to mind is my brother-in-law, Rich Deneen, who at the time was working for Chase Bank. First National had the classification in Rotary and wouldn't allow him to come in. And there were many cases of that. So, and again, you know, I believe we just celebrated 25 years of women in Rotary a few years ago. So back then we had no women. But I will say, in all sincerity, that I do think, even though our club is perhaps half the size now than it was, I really think we have a more engaged club. I think we know each other better. I believe we socialize better. I think we've improved, even though our numbers are down. And I think women have added certainly a wonderful facet to our club. And I've just, it's just been a pleasure to be a part of our club for the 30 to 40 years that I've been a part of it.
You must have joined when you were like 15 or 16, I guess, right?
I think I was, actually it was my marriage to my wife was contingent upon joining the Rotary. That's what my father-in-law told me.
That's funny.
But I was in the AMCO transmission business for 10 years. I sold my share of the business to my brother. I actually searched for a business to buy for about a year and found a small printing business in the Dixie Terminal building that I bought. At the time, it was called the Copy Place, and I renamed it Accuprint Laminating of Cincinnati. And within the Dixie Terminal building, we moved 4 different times, larger space each time, and loved the printing business. It was a fantastic business to be in. I was in the printing business for 17 years, and then in 2005, sold the business to a competitor and opened up my business brokerage business. So I've been a business broker now since 2005. And this year, I believe I should be able to sell my 100th business since I've been in the business brokerage business.
Wow.
I've been extremely fortunate. I've been in very small businesses. You know, the SBA talks about small business, which is 500 or less. Well, the businesses that I've always been involved with have been, you know, maybe a half dozen or fewer. So I truly have been a small business guy, a small business advocate, and you know, I've learned to live out of my business. So it's been truly a blessing.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about maybe some of your fondest Rotary memories as well. I mean, you mentioned some of the historical things you were involved with, but how about some of the activities and events that you've really enjoyed participating in?
Well, you know, recently we've included our grandchildren in going out to the picnics that we've had out at Camp Allen the last few years. I can remember my wife bringing our children down to Rotary Christmas parties back in the mid 80s, back when we had parties in the Hall of Mirrors. You know, I remember WCET. We were very involved with WCET, the Action Auction, and as a Rotary group, we had dozens and dozens and dozens of our members were down auctioning. Again, this is back in the 80s, assisting WCET in their Action Auction. It's unfortunate. I've gotten a lot more out of Rotary than I think I've put into Rotary. So I do feel a little bit embarrassed that I've taken so much out of Rotary and have not given as much as I should have. But I'm still a young guy, still have many years to go, and still plan on being involved to a greater extent in our Rotary Club.
I think you're a little hard on yourself from that perspective, but we'll leave that leave that go at this point. But one of the things that perhaps other Rotarians don't know about you is that you've been very active in the St. Vincent de Paul organization as well, and to the point where you're the president of the board of directors of the Cincinnati region at this point in time. So tell us a little bit about how you got involved in that, and what are some of the things you enjoy from that relationship?
Sure. Well, I've been a member of our St. Vincent de Paul Society for probably 15 years, and I joined at our parish level at Christ the King Parish in Mount Lookout, and I'm part of a conference, and there's 60 parish conferences across the greater Cincinnati area, and each conference comprises maybe 5 to 20 members. And what happens is neighbors in need call our phone line at our parish, and we as Vincentians will receive the phone call and go out in pairs. So I will go out once a month with another individual, and we will answer the call of the individuals, our neighbors in need that live probably within 2 to 3 miles of our parish. And again, there's 1,200 Vincentians in greater Cincinnati. So at any point in time, there's members of different conferences from other parishes that are actually knocking on the doors of our neighbors in need and meeting them, getting to know them, and understanding what their problems are. And the typical ways that we assist our neighbors is we will provide them, we'll either shop for them at Kroger's and bring them back food, or we will provide them Kroger cards, which enable them to shop on their own. Oftentimes, they have a shut-off notice from Duke Energy. So they might have 3 children, and they've got a shut-off notice for this coming Monday. And obviously, if it's in the middle of the winter, they need to have their heat. So we will pay their electric bill. They might not have water turned on, so we might have a water bill. They might have received an eviction notice from their landlord, so we'll pay their rent. So we're basically in the business of keeping neighbors in need in their homes, because once they get evicted from their home, it's very, very difficult for them to get back into a shelter. So we're in the emergency service business. And if you were to ask United Way of Greater Cincinnati, who is their number one go-to group that they turn to when it comes to calls that they receive for emergency help, it's St. Vincent de Paul. And we're very blessed in Cincinnati. We have probably the second or third largest St. Vincent de Paul organization in the United States. We have 7 thrift stores. We have 250 employees. We have 50 employees down at our downtown headquarters, and assisting us with the $50,000 contribution that we made to St. Vincent de Paul. It was the timing could not have been better. It's a critical time in our history here in Cincinnati, and I can assure everyone in our club that those funds are going to be used very judiciously and very wisely.
Well, that's we obviously at a board level decided to make a donation to make sure that we work with somebody who could deliver services to those in need. So it was a very easy choice for us to work through St. Vincent de Paul, and certainly through you and connecting us to your executive director. So it was definitely something that we felt really good about, and hopefully everything is being used to help those in need. So I'm sure they are.
Sure. And I would urge any Rotarians, we hopefully will be opening our thrift stores back up here potentially after the 1st of May. So if you've cleaned your garage out, if your bedroom's out, if you've got stuff that you'd like to give to a very organization, please, we've got 7 thrift stores throughout Greater Cincinnati, so I'm sure there's a store that's close to you. Please consider dropping your goods off at your nearest St. Vincent de Paul store, and we will use it very, very wisely.
Very good. Well, Dan, it was a pleasure talking with you today, and obviously you live the Rotary service above self motto on a daily basis. So that's why I really wanted to talk to you, and I really appreciate your time today. So Rotarians, I look forward to presenting another Rotarian Spotlight here in the near future. But Dan, thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you, David. And thank you for the wonderful job that you're doing as president of our Rotary group.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks, Dan. Take care.
You bet. Bye now.